Hey, what's up? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing another round of some very personalized book recommendations that all came from my Instagram. So earlier this year, I did this video where you all submitted your very specific things that you're looking for in books onto my Instagram, and I decided to go ahead and do another round of that video because I find these videos to be so awesome and so unique, because if there's something very specific that you're looking for in a book, then I love finding things on my shelves to recommend to you that have those specific things. However, before we do jump into the book recommendations, I wanted to say a huge thank you to Aura for sponsoring today's video. You've probably heard me talk a lot on my channel about how I struggle with anxiety, insomnia, depression, and it's been really hard to find a helpful solution for those things. And that's why I'm so excited to let you know about Aura, which is an Apple award-winning app for mental well-being and sleep. While other self-care apps offer a one-size-fits-all approach, Aura provides a personalized library of well-being resources that are tailored to your needs. They have a community of over 5 million, and it's no wonder 97% of first-time users report improvement after just 3 days of using the app. So how does it work? You basically download the app and they'll have you take this little assessment so they can specify what your particular needs are, and then you can discover personalized playlists that are created just for you. It's great because whether you only have 5 minutes or an hour to spare, it's made to suit your schedule. They offer meditations, relaxing stories, cognitive behavioral therapy, hypnosis, and life coaching tracks. I've only been using Aura for a few weeks, but I feel like it's already really helped with my sleep and with calming me down. I usually listen to it right before I go to bed, and I really like some of the nature sounds, like the rain and thunderstorm sounds. I also do enjoy listening to it like right before I go to work. I've tried listening to some of their meditations, and I'm not someone who's ever really meditated before, but it's really helpful, and I like learning the breathing techniques. I like though that the meditations seem like they're very high quality and that they're created by 100 plus of the top coaches and therapists in the world. One that I have saved that I have listened to over and over again is The Afternoon Sun in the Forest story by Lindy Smith. This one has helped me sleep more than once. The first 500 people to click the link in my description will get a 7-day free trial of Aura, plus 25% off your first year subscription. Thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring today's video, and now let's jump into the specific book recommendations. Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you so much to anybody who submitted a specific book recommendation for me to answer. I only have about 30-ish that I'm going to be going through for this video, but I had so many other ones that I would like to do, and so many of you had really interesting things that I don't really have an answer for, but I'll try to go through as many as I can that I did have answers for. The first one is from my friend Hani, and she asked for an ambiguous ending in thrillers or horror books. And I would skip ahead if you find it kind of spoilery to know that the end of a book is going to be ambiguous. My personal favorite books that have ambiguous endings are The Cabin at the End of the World, A House at the Bottom of a Lake, and Night Film. I would also include The Other Black Girl because it kind of has an ambiguous ending. The next question says horror book with a camping element, wrong turn movie vibes. One of the only books that I can think of off the top of my head that has like a camp in it is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. This one is more of a thriller though, and not as much of a horror. But a horror book that I just recently read is Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez. This one definitely has that like camp gone wrong kind of vibe to it, but it's more like these friends are staying in a cabin and then there's a killer out in the woods. I didn't super enjoy this book though, so I don't know if I would really recommend this, but if you know of any other camping kind of horror books, I would love to know in the comments down below. Next question asks for second chance romance books, and I'll be honest, these are usually some of my least favorite, or like one of my least favorite tropes in romance, so I don't read a lot of them, but my personal 2 favorite books that include this trope would have to be The Bromance Book Club and People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Somebody said something like The Hating Game but no unhoneymooners. Well, have you heard of Shipped by Angie Hockman? This book literally describes itself as The Unhoneymooners meets The Hating Game. I feel like this would be the perfect book recommendation for you, and I highly loved this book so much, and I do think it's an accurate comparison. I would also say Egomaniac. This one reminds me a lot more of The Hating Game than The Unhoneymooners. It's like an office romance, and I really enjoyed this one. Next question says traumatic horror or thriller that will have me paranoid that can be real, like Pretty Girls. I think one of the ones that felt very real to me is Brother. This one's just very traumatic and graphic, and it's following this family of serial killers on their farm, and they like capture girls there, and it's just very intense and very gory. I would would also say The Night Swim, because I feel like the most scary thing about this book is because it's following this rape trial case, and everything that's happening in this book can very much happen in real life, and it's very scary. The next question says romance books for people who don't read romance. And this is kind of hard because I don't know what you would like in romance, but some of the most addictive romance novels that I've personally read are The Unhoneymooners and Birthday Girl. If you're not an avid reader of romance, if you read these two books, you're either gonna love it or hate it, but I personally think these would be really fun books to start with. Birthday Girl would be fun just because it's like super forbidden, and you're probably gonna be like, oh damn, that is some steamy shit. And it might make you interested in reading just because it's a very forbidden romance, so it might keep you intrigued by if or how they get caught. The next question says books featuring twins. I feel like I'm always reading books about twins, and now I'm just like drawing a blank on all my favorites, but The Unhoneymooners does feature twin sisters in this book. Fangirl also has twin sisters. Kath and Ren are twins in this book. The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I also haven't read this book yet, but I know The Girl in the Mirror features twins, and this one's a thriller. The next question says thrillers with a sci-fi or tech aspect like Dark Matter or The Echo Wife. I would ask if you've read The Passengers or The One by John Mars. I mentioned these in like almost every video, but they both are kind of like Black Mirror type feel futuristic sci-fi thriller books that I just absolutely love. I also can't find my copy of this book, but Recursion by Blake Crouch is another like sci-fi thriller that has like some tech involved in it. It's just, oh, so good. The next question says a mystery book from the detective's point of view, and I'm not usually a huge fan of reading about thrillers with a detective point of view. It's just not my jam, but I will say Long Bright River by Liz Moore is a thriller that's told from the point of view of a cop, like a female cop, and she's trying to figure out what happened to her sister who is addicted to drugs. And this book is just, it's one of my favorites ever. And so this would probably be my answer for that. The next one says a book where the characters meet online, and I would say Top Secret. This is one where both of the characters unknowingly meet each other online anonymously, and they don't know that it's their roommate because they're in like a frat house together, and it's a male-male romance, and it's one of my faves. Also, spoiler alert, this is another one where they meet online anonymously. They're both part of this fan club online, and they write fan fictions together, but they don't know that they've already met in real life. Alright, the next one says books that take place in one place, and I would say The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This one all takes place on this island in Ireland during a wedding, and it all takes place on like one night. I would also say No Exit by Taylor Adams. This one also all takes place on one night, and it's all taking place in Colorado in this blizzard at this truck rest stop on the side of the road. This next one says a book that's set in Las Vegas, and I feel like this is such a good question. I actually looked on Goodreads for books that are set in Las Vegas, and the only one that I've read that I know of is Goldfinch. This wasn't a book that I really enjoyed anyway, so I don't think I would recommend it, but if anybody else knows of any books that take place in Las Vegas, I would also love to know. The next one says thrillers that read like a podcast, and I would highly recommend Anatomy of Desire. I just listened to this one on audio like about a month ago, and it sounds like a true crime podcast when you're listening to it. It's just really, really cool, but it's like a thriller novel. The next one says family moves into a haunted house, and one of my recent favorite books that has this trope is The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. This one is not only just a haunted house trope, but it's so much more than that, and it's so freaking good. Ooh, then I got this question, sci-fi horror in space, and one of the only ones that I can think of that I've read is 172 Hours on the Moon, but I'm also planning on doing an entire video reading these kinds of books in August, and I'll give you a hint at two of the books I'll be reading for that video. First one is Dead Space, and then I have Parasite. Both of these books are sci-fi horror books that I'm really looking forward to reading next month. This one says books that are about grief. I would say A Little Life is one of my personal favorite books that I've ever read that deals with grief, but also, just a warning, this book is literally one of the most depressing books that I've ever fucking read. It's just really, really sad. But some others that deal with grief, Summerbird Blue is another one of my favorites. It deals with this sister who just recently lost her sister. It's really fucking sad. And then we have The Astonishing Color of After. This one is one of the most beautifully written books that I've ever read, and it deals with this young girl who just lost her mother to suicide. And then I haven't finished reading this one yet. I just recently started it, but Little Universes is another book that is a young adult book about these two sisters who just lost both of their parents. Another book that deals with grief that is one of my favorites is Dancing at the Pity Party. This one is a graphic novel, and it's a real memoir about this girl and how her mom passed away when she was in college from cancer. It's so beautiful. It's so, so good. The next question says horror or thrillers set in a small town. I would definitely say The Brightlands by John Fram is one of my favorite horror novels that takes place in a small town in Texas. Another small town in Texas is The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. This one is more of a thriller that follows like a group of moms in the suburban areas in Texas. And then I would also say The Book of Accidents also has this like small town horror vibe to it. Next one says books with some sort of survival element like The Martian. And that's funny you should mention The Martian because I would recommend Project Hail Mary. This one's like an astronaut that's out in space again. It's like a survival story about how he has to try to make it back home. Then I would also recommend The Cabin at the End of the World. Definitely has that survival element to it. And then also Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This one also has this like survival element to it as well. This one says books that have a character go missing and then come back with amnesia. And my personal favorite book that does this trope is Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chabotsky. This one, we follow a 7-year-old boy named Christopher, and he goes missing in the woods for a couple of days, and when he comes back, he doesn't remember anything about the last couple of days, but he also has gained these like weird supernatural abilities because of it. I also don't know for sure because I haven't read it yet, but I think House of Hollow has this same kind of situation happening where these young girls go missing, and when they come back, they don't remember anything about what happened to them. The next one just says, literally just the scariest book you've read. Nothing I've ever read has scared me so far. And I would say for me, The Patient by Jasper Dewitt is probably the scariest book that I've ever read. Just in terms of, I was reading this in the dark at night and I genuinely got so creeped out that I had to stop reading it, which usually doesn't happen for me. This book, it's just so vividly creepy, and it's all just taking place in this insane asylum with this guy. Oh my god, it's just such a creepy book. Like, it's just genuinely so creepy, and it got to me. The next question says, a book that would make me laugh. It's been hard finding one like that. I totally agree. Like, I rarely ever laugh out loud in books. Like, it's really rare for that to happen to me, but I laugh at really stupid shit, and I thought Project Hail Mary was so funny. There were some moments in this book where I genuinely was laughing so hard, and that just never really happens for me in books. But I mean, granted, this is a sci-fi novel. It's not really meant to be super funny, but you know, Andy Weir just has like the most hilarious sense of humor, and so I find his books to be really funny. It's a beautiful, sad literary fiction story that follows characters from a large span of time. I would also say A Little Life for this because this book follows this character Jude for almost all of his life, and it follows like his other friends, and just it's a really, really beautiful literary fiction novel, but again, really sad and depressing. And I would also say The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. This book follows this Irish man who was born into the Catholic Church in like the 1950s, I want to say, and we follow him from his conception all the way through the rest of his life, and it's a really, really beautiful literary fiction novel. It's one of my favorites. The Vanishing Half is another book that follows two sisters over an entire period of their lives. This one is also very stunning and very powerful. I love this next question. It says books with the same vibes as Shameless US, which is one of my favorite shows. And the only book that I could think of as an answer for this would be Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I know probably isn't that great of an answer. For me personally, the four siblings in this book kind of reminded me of Shameless. At least the oldest sister, Nina, in this book kind of reminded me of Fiona, like just a little bit. But I don't really have a great answer for this, so I would love to know also if you guys have any books that kind of remind you of Shameless. If you could leave them in the comments below, because I would love some book recs for this. Next question says thrillers that take place on a college campus, which yes, that is also one of my favorite things. I would recommend The Maidens by Alex Michaelitis. This one is a very recent release. All takes place on a college campus, and it deals with a professor who's getting accused of murdering one of his students. I would also recommend They Never Learn. This one is so fantastic. It has a female serial killer who's a professor at a college campus, and it's just amazing. Next question says horror or thriller books without any romantic subplots. And I was thinking in my head when I read this question, I was like, oh my god, like almost every horror book I read doesn't have romance in it. But then as I started to think about it, I was like, wait, no, they do. I could only think of two books that didn't have like any romance in it whatsoever, and that would be The Troop by Nick Cutter and The Patient by Jasper Dewitt. These are like the two only horror novels I could think of where there's not even the slightest bit of romance ever mentioned in it. So yeah, The Troop, hello, one of my favorite horror books of all time. No romance. Thrillers that make you question whether what's happening is paranormal or not. Hell yes, this is one of my favorite tropes in thrillers as well, so I have a few recommendations. First one, Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Then I have The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I have The Nesting by CJ Cook. And The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. This one's actually more of a horror novel, but still, is it paranormal? Is it creepy? Like, oh my gosh. And then I have a question that's kind of like the exact opposite of that, which is a thriller that's not paranormal, that has twists and turns from the very beginning. I would highly recommend Local Woman Missing. This one is not paranormal in any way, but the beginning of this book is so gripping right from the start, because we're just following this small town that these women keep going missing. Like one day this one woman goes missing, and then like 10 days later this woman and her daughter both go missing. The first 50 pages of this book are told from a point of view that's like really unexpected, and it's just like, what the heck? It's just so gripping right from the start. One of my favorite thrillers of the year. And then I also have Finlay Donovan is Killing It. This one is another one that doesn't have any paranormal aspects to it, but it's kind of more of like a cozy murder mystery book, if you will. The next one says Books About a Friend Group, Dig by A.S. King. This one's like a recent favorite of mine. I also do think We Are the Ants would be classified as like a book that follows a group of friends. The story mainly though does follow with Henry, who's like our main protagonist in this book, but there is a lot of mention of his group of friends in this book. And then same with Loveless by Alice Oseman. I absolutely adore the friend group in this book. Oh my god, cutest shit ever. And then I have Stranded on an Island, which the only two books that I can think of for this answer, one of them is On the Island. This one is more of like a romance, like a forbidden romance novel between this older woman and this younger boy who get stranded on an island together. But I was also thinking Every Value Break by Peter Swanson kind of has that like stranded on an island kind of vibe. Even though I didn't really enjoy this one, I definitely enjoyed the island vibes within this one. And then the last one that I have is a psychological thriller or mystery where the very last sentence is a twist or bombshell. And for this, I feel like I would have to recommend The Silent Patient or Behind Her Eyes. I can't remember if it's exactly the last sentence of the book or not, but these books both end with a bang, and the plot twists are probably within the last chapter or so. And they're both some of the most shocking plot twists that I've ever read in books. Like, my jaw hit the floor both times. So those are all of the book recommendations that I have for you today. And once again, thank you so much to anybody who asked for a very specific book recommendation. I'm sorry if I didn't get to yours. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear Tank snoring in the background. He's like laying right next to me and I tried to get him to be quiet, but you know, it's hard. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, and again, if you have any other recommendations that you think would be great recommendations for any of these ones that I mentioned, then please let me know, because I'm always looking for more recommendations. And thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon with a new video. Bye!